What's up, guys? I spent 20 minutes yesterday on a Sunday to explain how I thought the market was going to bounce early this week. Clearly doesn't look like that. So in today's video, we're going to talk about what is going on the SPY, the NASDAQ, the IWM, and the crypto markets. All right. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. Hopefully my face stops lagging. I'm not sure what is going on here. All right. So as we can see, the SPY clearly opened right at support. I was expecting us to bounce at the open. Clearly didn't work that way. Instead, what we ended up doing was filling the gap on the daily candle here that we needed to fill up at 412.75, and today we hit a low of 412.40. So essentially that gap to the downside is filled. Now we have a gap to the upside. Pragmatically speaking, we have a gap to the upside to 421.22. All right. So clearly this is not a bullish setup. This is a complete U-turn of everything that we've seen thus far in the market. But now the indicators are starting to get very, very drawn down. So you can see that we closed below the 20 exponential moving average. You can see that the MACD is oversold. You can see the RSI shot down as well, and it's still holding the 50 on the RSI on the daily candle or the daily chart. So yeah, like it's things aren't looking too bullish like when looking at everything, right? So the only bullish thing that we have at the moment is the fact that we came and filled this gap, and now this gap is going to be acting as support. Aside from that, the momentum is clearly bearish. The entire overall market sentiment at this point is probably fearful again. Overnight, it does make sense to try to grab lotto calls for a bounce upwards overnight, especially since the VIX closed. For example, let me show you guys. The VIX closed 15.6% green. And usually when the VIX closes above 10%, the next few days that usually signals a bottoming formation. So that's important to look at as well. I mean, the VIX, you can see that it stopped right here at the 200 simple moving average on the dot. But the VIX showing this much strength shows that there isn't necessarily that much more weakness for tomorrow and the day after. So for the immediate days after, most likely what's going to end up happening is the SPY should have a small green day tomorrow. Should have a small green day tomorrow, but it's not 100% guaranteed. The IWM is holding this 190 level for dear life. It's just praying not to break down below 190. You can see that 190 is a very, very major level of support. And when looking at the NASDAQ, 313 and 312 is very, very important support on the NASDAQ. But just the sheer momentum to the downside is very, very strong. And even today, when you looked at the overall, the bullish setups today, none of the bullish setups really worked that well. So unless a lot of buying pressure comes and unless a lot of people become bullish again, support will remain. But for now, today we didn't see many retests of support. We didn't see many bullish setups at all. So it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting, especially overnight. So yeah, so far things clearly look very, very bearish. Like I said before, going short on the NASDAQ the day after it closes above an uptrend is a very, very good shorting opportunity. And if you had gotten into longer term puts, this play worked out really, really well. So yeah, now that essentially we had a substantial amount of follow through to the downside, we are now at this 312 to 313 level of support on the NASDAQ. So essentially we have to see how that level now responds. All right. So what we can do is we can take a look at the 30-year bond. So the 30-year bond on the daily is closing and just riding down the lower level of the Bollinger Band dramatically here. So we can see that it's closing outside of the Bollinger Band 2 days in a row. Whereas the SPY, so this showing this, it's basically showing that the overall market is very overextended to the downside. This doesn't happen unless the overall market is showing extreme weakness. And when this does happen, because we're very overextended to the downside, this signals a pop in the market, usually. So the only issue right now is that the SPY is currently not very overextended algorithmically. That setup works best when both the SPY, NASDAQ, and the 30-year bond are trading outside of the lower B bands. But we can see we are still within the medium level of the Bollinger Bands. So now we just saw the 30-year bonds, how they're showing extreme weakness, right? This extreme weakness cannot necessarily, it won't necessarily hold and sustain. I don't see the 30-year bond just starting to collapse. And if it does continue to collapse, it'll be very, very overextended to the downside at that point. So the more overextended it gets, the better the buying opportunity is. Now, also when looking at the dollar, the dollar today absolutely skyrocketing. We almost made a new high. But once again, same concept with the bonds. When the dollar is same concept with the bonds and what I spent yesterday trying to explain. But the dollar, very, very overextended to the upside on the Bollinger Bands. When this is the case, so basically what I'm looking at is, can the strength on the dollar sustain itself? Probably not, right? It could end up going a bit higher tomorrow, maybe the next day, but this is very, very, very algorithmically overextended to the upside. This is not a sustainable move by any means. The dollar is moving like a penny stock. So obviously this is not sustainable, right? If the dollar does end up evening out, falling down a bit, that is a bullish setup. And that is bullish for the stock market. So we have the 30-year bond very overextended to the downside. We have the dollar very overextended to the upside. We have people messaging me on WhatsApp, and the overall market is showing a lot of weakness. So now I think we should just go ahead and take a look at the crypto markets, because aside from that, I mean, that's really it for the entire stock market. Bitcoin, honestly, I mean, this isn't even really worth looking at right now either. Like everything, the entire market is bearish. All right. At this point now, we just have to see if, forget about Bitcoin. At this point, we just have to see if the SPY can hold. For every pop that we have is essentially a shorting opportunity. Until the SPY can reclaim 417.40, that's it. Any sort of bullish momentum is done, in my opinion. Like, we need to reclaim back 417.40. Once we reclaim that, then we can start thinking about going long aggressively. But until then, every single pop below that level is a shorting opportunity. And with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.